think we can start now. We are live. Um, Welcome to the Frontline webinar on the upcoming assembly elections in Bihar. Elections in Bihar have always been extremely engrossing, and this has to do, with the fact that the state is perhaps the most vibrant when it comes to politics, and it also has an interesting area of political players. The people are so well attuned into the political issues, and this election too promises to be an exciting affair, and I think the stage is set for a scintillating contest between the incumbent, the National Democratic Alliance, and the challenger, the Mahagathbandhan. What adds to the importance of this election is also the fact that this would be like an end of an era. Two stalwarts, Nitish Kumar and Lalu Prasad Yadav, who have dominated the politics of the state for the last few decades, they could well be walking into the sunset after this election. There's a new element in this election in the form of political strategist turned politician, Prashant Kishor. We don't know what kind of an impact he will have in this election, but he's definitely getting a lot of attention and he's generating a lot of interest. And last but not the least, this election takes place under the shadow of the intensive revision of the electoral roll, which was conducted by the Election Commission at breakneck speed, right on the eve of the election, and it created a huge political furor. So there's intense speculation going on over how the SIR is going to impact the election. So, to help us get a better understanding of all the issues at play in the coming assembly election, and also look at the strengths and weaknesses of the important political players, we have with us Amitabh Tiwari, political strategist and election analyst. Thank you so much, Amitabh, for joining us. And we also have Anand Mishra, my esteemed colleague and political editor of Frontline. Thank you, Anand, for being
Thank you.
here with us. To set the ball rolling, if we can begin the discussion by looking at the impact that the SIR is expected to have on the election. The final electoral roll is out, the figures are before us. The number of voters, as per the final voters list, now stands at 7.42 crores. The number was 7.89 crores on June 24 when the SIR was announced. And there is a lot of discussion going on over how this change in the statistics would, have an impact at the level of the constituencies. In 2020, many constituencies saw very close contests. In fact, in more than 10 seats, the decision, was, on the basis of a margin of less than 1,000 votes. So, in such a scenario, can the additions and deletions prove decisive in these elections? That is one aspect which is being looked at very closely, especially by the political parties. So, Amitabh, if you could throw some light on how the figures that we have statistically, how the SIR may play out in the coming elections.
You see, essentially, the base, if we need to compare the electoral roll, is will not be January 25. It will have to be October 2020. And at that point of time, the number of voters in Bihar was 7.36 crore. So by that statistics, the number has increased actually to 7.42 crore, though it is marginal increase compared to last election and compared to the previous 2015 versus 20 or 2010 versus 15. So there is still an increase of voters. Of course, this increase is not uh, in a same manner in different districts. In some districts, the number of voters have declined, and in some districts, the number of voters have improved. It is very, very difficult to quantify whether uh, this deletion is going to help any political party. Of course, the close seats will come into context as you've mentioned, but again, then we'll have to get back into whose name has been deleted, whom they had voted for in the last elections, etc., which is very, very difficult to find out, except, I mean, impossible to find out actually. So, all in all, the SIR exercise has consolidated the vote bank of Mahagathbandhan because they've made it a big issue in the last 2 months. And it has also consolidated the vote bank of NDA in the sense that NDA is also trying to spread the narrative to its voters that it has removed 65 or 69 lakh voters and mostly those Patyas, because very few people will go into the technical details as to how these 69 lakh were deleted. Now the attention is back to the bread and butter issues as we've seen with PP Sarkari or the promise of Tejashwi Yadav. So I think mostly that issue is settled in the sense that it has just consolidated or motivated both the cadre of NDA and MGB to come out more and vote. Otherwise, not much impact, I think, electorally can be seen.
If you could
If you could
elaborate
elaborate.
why you said that we need to compare the figures based on what the number of voters was in 2020 and not what it was in 2024 or the beginning of this year. If you could elaborate a bit on that.
Because the 10 seats, or let's say there are 83 seats where the victory margin was less than equal to 5%. But these 10 seats or 83 seats, and there are 52 seats where the victory margin was less than 5,000 votes. But these were all based on the 2020 voter roll and not 2024 or 2025 voter roll. Correct. So in 2020, the number of voters were 7.36 crores. It is just that in 2024 Lok Sabha election, the number of voters were 7.70 crores. And then they increased to 7.89 crores when the list was updated somewhere in January 2025. Correct. So otherwise, we will have to compare the assembly leads of 2024 Lok Sabha election versus 2025 the elections which is going to take place. Correct, because in 2020 still the number of voters were less. Yes, I think in half of the districts, almost half of the districts, the number of voters has increased, and in almost half of the districts the number of voters has declined. The top five would be, I think, two are from Simanchal, but still there are some districts like Gopalganj, Siwan, which are in Saran, which voted for Mahagathbandhan in 2020, but which switched to the NDA side in the 2024 Lok Sabha election. Even in Simanchal, if you see the historical results, it's not that the Mahagathbandhan has swept the region. Even in 2020, out of the 24 seats, NDA won 12, the Mahagathbandhan 7, and the AIMIM 5. So even if we add the AIMIM to Mahagathbandhan, because most of them joined RJD, then also it is 12-12. Even if you look at the Lok Sabha leads of those 24 seats, the NDA won 10 and 12 and 12 were won by the Mahagathbandhan. That also including Pappu Yadav, who was leading in 4 seats. So that region also, because of the polarization, has not gone one way. Because of the polarization, it also tends to split between the two parties almost on an equal basis.
Right. Anand, you had visited Bihar during the SIR and you went to a few districts, you interacted with the voters, and that was a time when the people were actually scampering around trying to fill enumeration forms and get hold of the necessary documents. So, based on that experience, what sense did you get about the residents of SIR on the ground? How were the people looking at it? Were they perturbed? Were they angry about being made to go through all that exercise at that time? And how do you look at the opposition's campaign with regard to SIR? The slogan of "Vote Chori," how far has that caught on? And also, moving forward from here, do you think that this model which the Election Commission has adopted for the SIR, where the people have to fill enumeration forms and where they have to provide documents to to prove that they are eligible, will this model work when the SIR is taken beyond Bihar to other states, or will the Election Commission have to kind of rework that?
So good that you pointed out about the exercise when it had begun a few months back. I was there, so I would use the word perplexed, not angry, because I found in Bihar villages people were baffled why this exercise is being undertaken. So I remember I visited the constituency of Union Mr. Jitan Ram Manji, and I was asked by the villagers, where are the foreigners in our village? You see, this is a small village. If somebody comes from outside, we will immediately come to know. So, so this logic that this exercise will flush out foreign elements, falls on its face. Having said that, I feel that most of the voters who were wary of being put out of the list, they have made their entry back. So substantially, it is no longer as strong an issue now as it was a few months back when the exercise had begun. There were real apprehensions that large number of voters will be not be able to vote, and they will. The most of them have only Aadhaar documents. So I think after the Supreme Court order, Aadhaar was also considered one of those documents. So I think on the ground, people's voting pattern is not going to change because of this issue. But I would agree with Amitabh on this count that this has given the Mahagathbandhan, the opposition, an issue to grow with the ruling party, to raise doubts about its intentions, and center the campaign around an attempt to steal away the votes. I feel that this NDA's campaign about Ghuspatia is not resonating that much in Bihar, because apart from a small regions, 5 districts of Simanchal, which has adjoining borders with West Bengal and then Bangladesh, the rest of Bihar in this issue does not resonate. It has never uh, been. But I feel that this SIR issue has done one thing, that effectively for last few months we saw the other political issues being pushed in the background. There was hardly a talk about the governance model of Nitish Kumar. There was hardly a talk about the delivery. Once in a while, some issues kept cropping up, like poor law and order, the spate of murders in Patna and other cities. But by and large, the SIR dominated the political discourse. I'm not sure how effective this strategy was for the opposition, because they were fighting a government which was there for nearly 2 decades, and the expectation of a massive anti-incumbency. So putting all the energy on the SIR issue, how pragmatic politically it was, I'm not very sure, because as far as I could gather, that people will not be voting on for SIR or against SIR.
Yeah, I think now both the parties and the people will return to bread and butter issues, and they will have to do it in a great hurry because the elections are right upon us now.
Yeah,
Uh,
livelihood is becoming a
hmm,
major issue this time, because Bihar, where most of the times when we talk about election, we talk about caste calculus, the coalition of different parties and the castes. But for 2 3 years, I'm seeing a lot of traction around the issue of livelihood, migration. You see massive protests in a number of cities, including in Patna, over alleged irregularities in a job scam. And that Prashant Kishor also deserves some credit for putting much more spotlight on this issue. It's not that other parties were not raising. Tejashwi was claiming credit for creating employment when he was deputy chief minister in the earlier government. But that's a welcome change in the discourse of Bihar politics this time, that people are talking about employment and other basic issues in a much more stronger manner than we have seen in past.
right. If we, talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the key political players in this election, if you can begin by talking about the incumbent Chief Minister Nitish Kumar. He's the face of the NDA, and as the NDA mascot, all along his strengths have been his image as a pro-development leader, Susashan Babu, as he has been known as, and he was always seen as the person who rid the state of Jungle Raj, as the Lalu Rabri rule was known as, and he comes with a huge support base comprising non-Yadav OBCs, the extremely backward castes, Mahadalits, and women also are known to be huge supporters of Nitish Kumar. Um, But in this election, doubts are being expressed about how strong brand Nitish continues to be, whether he's actually an asset for the NDA or, in fact, you know, could be even a liability. Uh, you're talking about fatigue factor kicking in, and the opposition parties are constantly talking about, doubts about his health and whether he's fit to run a government. So, Amitabh, if you could talk about how Nitish Kumar is faring in this election, the importance of this election for him, his political future, the future of his own party, if you could throw some light on that.
You see, essentially, I regard every strength as a weakness also, correct? Because and there is very a thin line of difference between strength and weakness. Let's say confidence is a strength, but overconfidence is a weakness. And some of us who have done commerce, assets is equal to liabilities plus capital. So an asset can is also a liability in some sense. So asset wise, yes, of course, he has still commands that 12 to 15% vote share, which comprises largely of NYOBC, EBC, and women voters and Mahadalits. Uh, Few people would argue that in the first 10 years he has done significant development. But even some of his staunch supporters would agree to the fact that in the last 10 years he has been rather busy saving his chair, because in the last 10 years he has earned this tag of Palturam, whereas he has switched from NDA to Mahagathbandhan and then again back to NDA twice, two times in a full circle of 10 years. So in the last 10 years, there has been, you can say, lesser development and more focus on how to save his chair is what people also believe in. Generally, people do not see him as corrupt. Somehow he enjoys this Teflon coating, which Modi also enjoys. Though there is very high level of low level corruption in the state. When you travel across the state, people are fed up with corruption in their tehsil offices, police stations, etc. People believe that Nitish is a good man and he has a non-corruptive approach. So his image is good. Even amongst Yadav and Muslim community, you will see that people do not generally talk ill of him. This time, however, since he is not campaigning much, of course, he is being seen uh, inaugurating projects, etc., but is not holding rallies and making speeches. His health is also a concern which has been raised by the opposition. So all these factors would likely play out a role, but we will have to wait and see as to what is the performance of Nitish Kumar's JDU, because NDA's fortunes largely depend upon his performance. So if his party is not able to increase its seats, like Prashant has said that JDU's tally will fall to 25. So if it falls to 25, then NDA government is difficult to come back to power. But if he is able to win 50 plus, then it increases the chance of NDA to come back to power. So it's all about how JDU performs now in this election, and that only will tell us whether he was really an asset or a liability. However, the BJP, I think in media we use a lot of sources. So, from a sources point of view, 3 months back they were uh, viewing all these options. As in, if BJP goes on a standalone basis, what happens? If it goes only with Chirag, what happens? So, in both the cases, BJP's internal surveys showed that they were not going to cross the simple majority mark. So that's why perhaps they have decided to stay with Nitish Kumar in this election. The future of JDU, of course, it all depends upon how the party performs and what his health is, because we've seen in India that regional parties require a family uh, stronghold at the top. So without a family man at the top of the party, it will be very, very difficult for JDU to survive, especially so if it is not able to perform well in the election. So the next 5 years will be crucial for the party.
Right. The other side, Tejashwi Yadav, although he's not been declared the Mahagathbandhan's phase, he's pretty much the CM candidate of the India Alliance for all practical purposes. Now, for him, for Tejashwi, the Lalu legacy is both a positive and a negative, because he's been trying really hard to distance himself from the memories of Jungle Raj, as the Lalu Rabri years were known as. And he's also been attempting to reach out to a wider constituency beyond the Muslim plus Yadav combination. In the last election, we saw that he actually came close to, winning the election for the India Alliance. The RJD won 75 seats and was the largest party with a vote share of 23.11%. And he ran a feisty campaign. He connected really well with the youth. Uh, the way he spoke about employment, and actually was it resonated well with the youth of the state. So. What does it take for Tejashwi to take the India Alliance across the line this time? Can he do it? What is working for him? What is not working for him? If Anand could, speak about this, whether he's able to get a wider acceptance for his party and for himself.
Sorry, if you
And can he make this transition from deputy CM to CM finally?
yeah. No, I think this is the best possibility for Tejashwi Yadav. This time, if the RJD fails to come to power, I'll say that it will be very difficult, because in the next 5 years, some kind of new leadership will emerge in different parties. This is a time when Nitish, Kumar, everybody is saying that this is his last election. And as Amitabh said, that next 5 years would be a little challenging. So I still believe that this after the election, there will be much more drama in Bihar this time than before the election. Previous elections, we have seen people giving clear mandate. I am a little doubtful about that. I find some similarities with February 2005 assembly election in Bihar, where Ramvilas Paswan's party has emerged at third poll, winning around 30 seats, and he has successfully prevented the formation of any government, and elections were again held after 8-9 months. I'm not saying that Prashant Kishor will win the 30 seats, but in politics, nothing can be done. He's making right noise. If you see the candidates list announced by him, there's some very formidable candidates, and he's getting good traction in popularity chart also. One of the this opinion poll has seen that this saying him more popular than even Nitish Kumar. So all these things will be clear once the vote is count. But I strongly believe that 2025 assembly election for Bihar is very different from the elections last 4 elections that we have seen. One, Nitish Kumar's party is definitely on decline. 2020 election itself, so the party winning only 43 seats. Large number of blame went to Chirag Paswan for that. But I believe that more than Chirag Paswan, it is Nitish Kumar's party decline also had to do with his own falling image, because Chirag Paswan was not such a pan-state leader at that time. He did manage to damage JDU in some constituencies. But 2020 elections should be a barometer. From we have to see whether this decline is arrested this time. I'm very doubtful about that. For RJD, the challenge that has been there since Lalu Prasad and Radu Devi rule is still there. It is very convenient for the NDA to recall the memories of Jungle Raj, though Jungle Raj is a term which came in a different context in a court order, in Patna High Court order, when there were a lot of civic woes on the Patna, and Rabri Devi was CM, not Lalu Prasad was the CM at that time. She had just become chief minister. She was not in control of things, and mostly the bureaucracy was running the government. But somehow this term has stuck with RJD since then. Recent months, we saw a number of crime incidents happening in the streets in Bihar when Nitish Kumar was chief minister, and this has given an opportunity to RJD to turn the clock back on NDA, which used to accuse him of Jungle Raj. Incidents have now stopped, fortunately, but this sole blame for fall of law and order that used to stick with RJD, that is not the case there, because people have seen that crime incidents happen even in other regimes. That's one challenge for RJD, is also to go beyond this MY, Muslim youth. We remember After 1995, Bihar has not seen a single party rule. That was the peak of Lalu Prasad, this first government after the arrest of El Kadwani in 1990. He had become very dear to minorities, and he was not only Yadav leader, he was an OBC leader under the RJD umbrella. A lot of Muslims and a lot of OBC castes were there. What we saw in 2005, Nitish Kumar forging an alliance of upper caste EBCs and also substantial chunk of Muslims. Because 15 years have passed since RJD ruled, there were expectations of better delivery, grassroots empowerment was done. So what next? You can't rule a state on the basis of social empowerment for an infinite period. The development has to come, delivery has to come. As aspirations grow, people will expect better jobs, better amenities. So Nitish Kumar came with a promise. He built roads, he improved law and order substantially in his first term. But after his first term, between October 2005 and October 2010, if we closely examine the assembly election results of 2010, we see that was the best show of RJD. JDU, Nitish Kumar. This was kind of mandate on his performance during the first term. People were really reading under a lot of problem in the towards the last end of RJD rule, and they breathed a sigh of relief when the law and order improved, when roads came. I myself have been covering Bihar election for since 2000, and I saw the substantial the improvement in the quality of rural roads when I traveled in 2010. But again, you see, after 2010, 15 and 20, these two elections, there is a decline in JDU vote share, which continued even in the Lok Sabha elections. So there is clearly an yearning for change. Nitish Kumar is aging. And his after improvement in law and order and after improvement in road connectivity, employment is a big issue. People's expectations have risen. Still, if you go to Bihar village, you will find a large number of youths from all caste and communities migrate to other cities, or mostly metros, to account a livelihood. So that's a problem. So and unless that problem is addressed now, I don't think Nitish Kumar can continue to rule for another 20 years, 15 years, only on the basis of having improved law and order and having broad roads.
This is perhaps the best chance Tejashwi Yadav has.
Yeah, but he has to go beyond this MY ambit.
Yeah.
First, he has to bring under his umbrella a lot of other castes. In fact, some effort in this direction he began in 2020 itself. You mind in Bihar's OBC politics, Kushwahas and Yadavs are traditionally rivals in rural parts of Bihar. Last election, assembly election, around 10 Kushwaha candidates from RJD won. And even in 2024 Lok Sabha election, a significant victory for RJD was in Aurangabad. Aurangabad seat was won in past by Satyanarayan Singh and Nikhil Kumar. This seat is considered called Chittorgarh of Bihar, because most of the time, all the time, barring 2024, a candidate from Kshatriya community, Rajput, has won the seat. So the first time that RJD experimented with a Kushwaha candidate, and the Yadavs, Kushwaha, Muslims, and other EVC voted together, and RJD has won this seat. We have to see how far this Kushwaha phenomenon continues in favor of RJD, because mind it, BJP has been quick to make amends. It has recently we saw pictures of this Upendra Kushwaha and the Bhojpuri singer Pawan Singh joining hands. That's one. Then in Bihar itself, Samrat Chaudhary has been given a big role in BJP. He's from Kushwaha community. He's son of well-known leader Shakuni Chaudhary. So BJP is trying to BJP has understood this game, that if it goes beyond MY and MY plus becomes a success, like the PDA in Uttar Pradesh, where Akhilesh Yadav gave tickets to a lot of non-Yadav candidates in last Lok Sabha election, taking a cue from Mayawati formula, and BJP was lost substantial number of seats in UP. So if RJD succeeds in this particular direction, then there is trouble for BJP.
Anand, you mentioned Prashant Kishor and how he's made this election unpredictable. So I would want to bring in Amitabh to talk about Prashant Kishor and if he really, I mean, I think he's a third angle, even if not in terms of the votes he gets or the number of seats he is able to win. At least if you look at the amount of attention that he has got in this election, he has come up as a third angle. So, how do you look at the factor of Prashant Kishore in this election? He's talked about. I mean, he has a progressive agenda. He's talked about education. He's talked about employment. He's exhorted people to look at issues beyond caste and vote on those issues. Um, is he going to make any difference in this election? Is he going to be an X factor in this election? How do you analyze him?
See, he's one of the X factors. Essentially, if you see, Bihar always has had almost 20% on an average others vote share. Out of that, 8 to 10% is backed by independents always in every election. And then there are smaller parties, BSP, RLSP used to be separate, now it is part of NDA, then you have AIMIM, etc. So now this 20% vote is on, you can say, an unofficial third front vote, which gets scattered into different parties because they do not have a bigger party or a face. Now you can say that he is the CM candidate of independents and smaller parties voters because now they have a face, now they have an institutional format or a party which they can align to. So the biggest damage is going to be of others. So he is likely going to consolidate the vote of others, which is scattered across many parties, hundreds of smaller parties and independents. Secondly, is that initially he got, or rather, who is voting for him? Of course, voters who do not want Mahagathbandhan and NDA, so who are voting for others, are voting for him. Then who is voting for him? Youth is voting for him, or rather, youth is liking him. Whether it translates into vote or not, we'll have to see. Now, when the youth exhibit the highest anti-incumbency against the government, it's almost as high as 57% in our surveys in vote wide. So, but that vote was largely being pocketed by Tejashwi Yadav in the last election. Here, Prashant makes an end. So here, if he gets some vote of the youth, he is likely to damage RJD because that is largely an opposition vote because unemployment is a problem and migration is a problem. Correct. Now we have, then who are the other voters who are voting? One again is the upper caste. Now if he gets upper caste vote because upper caste sees that after 35 years there can be a chief minister from the upper caste category, then is likely to damage NDA. Then he's also getting some traction amongst the minorities, the youth minorities who are talking about representation. Because currently in Bihar, only 8% of the assembly strength is of Muslims, whereas the population is 18%. Mahagathbandhan, when in allotting tickets, also gives only 12.5%, whereas the population is 18. That's the area which OIC has been pocketing for some time and is getting some traction. So he will play the role of spoiler, the same role which LJP played. LJP largely damaged JDU from NDA. It also damaged Mahagathbandhan. So LJP got more votes than margin of victory on 73 seats. On 40 seats, it damaged NDA, which is talked about a lot, largely JDU, 33 of these 40 seats. But on also 32 seats, it damaged Mahagathbandhan. So it pulled down Mahagathbandhan, it pulled down NDA also, but largely JDU. Correct. And that's why the election became very close. So he will also spoil the prospects of both the parties, which is Mahagathbandhan and NDA, depending upon the various seats. And there are 83 seats where the vote margin was less than equal to 5%. So even if he gets 5%, he is damaging somebody. Correct. Others, of course, but also NDA and Mahagathbandhan. So it's very difficult to say who he will damage. He will damage both the parties. In the end, it could be marginally in favor of some alliance, because if even if you see LJP on a net basis damaged NDA more by just 8 seats, correct? Because 40 minus 32. So that's what the situation is currently.
We know that he won't be able to do a Kejriwal in Bihar and not have that kind of an impact. But do you feel that he is playing a long game in Bihar and he could be looking at occupying the space which he feels would be opening up after Nitish and Lalu kind of hang up their boots? Anand, if you want to come on, comment
Yeah,
on
I
that.
think he is very much aware of the fact that there is going to be a vacuum in Bihar politics after some time, because you see these three leaders who dominated the discourse of politics for more than 30 years in Bihar. Mr. Ramvilas Paswan uh, died during last assembly election, in the midst of last assembly election. So that was the assembly election in which he was still very much present for LJP. This election, LJP is being spearheaded totally by Chirag Paswan after his sideline managed to successfully win the battle of succession against his uncle, Pashupati Kumar Palas. And from JDU and RJD, both Lalu Prasad and Nitish Kumar, clearly they are fighting their last election. Nitish Kumar's videos and public functions are viral. We all have to see how opposition were making a campaign about his uh, uh, being unfit for the role. And Lalu Prasad has also taken backseat in this election. We don't see much in public. So after 2025, who are the faces? Chirag Paswan is one, but his appeal is limited to a very marginal fraction of vote of youths, and largely the Paswan votes of 5%, and the votes that candidates, influential candidates, bring with them. That's one. Then in Nitish Kumar's party, there are a lot of senior leaders, but as Amitabh pointed out, that his son is also very new to politics, and we have seen regional parties failing. This is an unfortunate story. But generally, if the regional parties don't have a dynasty, they don't sustain long beyond the leader. We have seen that in Odisha. We have seen that is now happening with AIADMK, contrary to what is have happened with DMK. So after Nitish Kumar, clearly Nitish Kumar's party JDU is on the crossroads. Uh, RJD will definitely remain because Tejashwi has arrived, somewhat like Akhilesh Yadav has taken the legacy of his father in UP. But so the space is open for new kind of politics. Also remember this Mandal and Mandir politics that began in 1990. So Mandir is now more than 35 years. So people are fed up with both of these politics. And in Bihar, unlike in UP, where we have three temple towns of Ayodhya, Mathura, and Kashi, the Mandir politics, the Hindu politics, did not have that much resonance even at the peak. Mandal politics is also receding now, and that's why you see and on the issue of caste census, both are evenly poised because Rahul Gandhi made a huge campaign around it. Then Modi government announced caste census. So I don't see any of these sides benefiting to a larger proportion than they want. So the space is totally open for a new politics of youth, politics of aspiration, politics of employment. And even Tejashwi Yadav realized it way back in 2020, and he started talking about employment. He is talking more about now. Prashant Kishor is a new face. He brings a new narrative. So I think that the Bihar politics will open up in the years to come, and that space, Prashant will have a much more legroom to play. This election, he will have his resonance. He will have his impact. He'll become a formidable force. Nobody can ignore. Even last assembly bypoll, which was very limited scale, he did make an impact. So this is a very important election for Prashant Kishore.
So when things are opening up in the assembly elections in Bihar, are we also going to see a shift in voter allegiance also? I mean, both the NDA and the Mahagathbandhan, they had their own established support bases comprising different castes and communities. So, in this election, with everybody trying to reach out to communities and castes beyond their traditional support bases, are we seeing some sort of a flux in voter allegiance this time? Amitabh, if you would want to talk about that.
So see, essentially, if we see, uh, Mahagathbandhan is called as an MY party, so the population is 32%, but it gets 37% vote share, or it got 37% vote share. NDA, which has a much larger addressable market, you can say, of upper caste, non-Yadav, OBC, EBC, Mahadalit, Dalit, that is around 68% of population, but it also got 37% vote. Even if you add LJP, it got around 42, 43% vote share. So there is a significant leakage in the addressable vote of NDA, and Mahagathbandhan also makes some headway. So it's not just an MY party in that sense, because out of 37%, 25% comes from Muslim Yadav and 12% comes from others. So what happens is that almost three-fourths of the MY vote goes to Mahagathbandhan, and it picks up almost one-fourth of the non-MY vote, which is upper caste, non-Yadav, OBC, EBC, etc. And BJP gets, or rather the NDA gets around two-third, not three-fourth, but two-third of this, its core vote block, and around one-fourth of the vote of MY. So that's how things are placed. So for Mahagathbandhan to win, it needs to expand beyond MY, and when we say expand beyond MY, it needs to get close to 45% vote in a bipolar contest to win an election. Now, let's say it's a triangular contest of some sort, so it still needs around 40-42% to be sure of winning the election. So, where does this 5% extra come from? Let's say? So, that needs to come from either upper caste, which is difficult because the disgruntled upper caste is likely to go to Jan Suraaj Party, or EBC or SC. And here is where the Congress plays a role, because Congress brings in votes from upper caste, EBC, SC, which traditionally are not voters of RJD, because there is also a trust deficit between RJD score vote block and the EBCs, or the upper caste. Correct, because the EBCs and OBCs joined hands to dislodge the upper caste Congress government, but later the OBCs, or largely the Yadav community, pocketed all the powerful positions, and that's why the EBC rebelled in 2005. So, amongst EBCs, uh, it's all about representation, because it's more than 100 caste groups. There's not a dominant caste amongst EBCs like Kurmis, Koiris, or Kushwahas are amongst non-Yadav OBCs. There's not a single dominant caste of EBC, because there are only 5 caste groups which are more than 2% population. Correct. So the weakening, it weakens the bargaining power of EBCs in a big way. Now, amongst Dalits, you have three core vote blocks: Paswans, Ravidas community, and the Manji community. These three account for 13% of the 20% Dalit vote, which is almost 65%. The Paswan and the Manji vote is largely with NDA, but the Ravidas vote, which is 5%, which is more than Paswan vote actually, marginally, can shift towards Mahagathbandhan if it gives some prominent position to Rajesh Ram, or announces that we will have a Dalit deputy CM, etc. So that vote block, the Ravidas vote block, could move from NDA to Mahagathbandhan. Then also Kushwaha we have already discussed about, because in Bihar it's largely about representation. People vote first for their caste and then their party of preference. Almost 57% voters in Bihar, as per a Azim Premji University study, prefer leaders of their own caste. So these are some of the caste groups which could shift, or potentially shift, towards MGB if they are given proper representation. Because in 2020, RJD gave 40% tickets to Yadavs almost, whereas the population is 14-15%. So they will have to walk the talk. जिसकी जितनी संख्या भारी उसकी इतनी हिस्सेदारी is not just about giving a slogan. So they will have to give tickets, more tickets to EBCs and strategically to Ravidas community amongst the Dalits, and also more to NYOBCs versus Yadavs, to be able to attract these voters. And we'll have to wait and see whether, I think Anandji mentioned about Akhilesh's PDA, whether they are able to do that or not, because that is itself is going to bring some level of confidence. Because otherwise, if you're not giving tickets and just making these slogans or these EBC Nyay Patra is not going to help, because in 2020 only 9% tickets were given by MGB to EBCs, and EBCs account for, the Hindu EBCs account for 26% of population.
So clearly, caste representation is going to be an important factor deciding these elections. If we talk about the national parties in the fray, BJP and the Congress, I mean, they are in very different positions vis-a-vis the alliances that they are a part of. BJP is doing the heavy lifting when it comes to the NDA, and the Congress may not be doing the heavy lifting, but for the Congress, the election results are going to be extremely important, especially because it's going to have a national resonance. So, Anand, if you could come in and talk about why the BJP has found it so difficult to crack Bihar. I mean, it's managed to become, the most important or the biggest party in the NDA, surpassing the JDU. But compared to UP, where it has had, immense success in coming out of the shadow of the regional parties, in Bihar, it continues to be dependent on JDU and the smaller regional parties. And the Congress, where do you see the Congress? Um, do you see it reviving in any way? Although we have seen Rahul Gandhi and the Congress investing a lot in this election in terms of effort and time. Where do you see the Congress in this election?
See, to answer the first part of your question about why BJP is not becoming a dominant force in Bihar like it became in UP. UP, as I talked about these three temple towns in UP, UP always had this attraction for Hindutva politics for a long time. It's a place of Madan Malviya, BHU, and all that. So it's a pre-independence history. Uh, but even in UP, if you remember, after this demolition of Bari of 1992, in 1993, when assembly elections were held and Samajwadi Party and BSP came together, BJP was wiped out because OBCs and Dalits jointly came, and this was much bigger vote base than BJP could aspire. After that, BSP came to power on its own, and there are three blocks: BSP, SP, and BJP. And BJP is winning the elections there. That's one. Upper caste, a number of voters in UP is much more than in Bihar. That is a second factor. And thirdly, Bihar has been a cradle of socialist politics. You remember JP movement began from Gandhi Maidan in Patna. Despite all this talk of caste and caste, we saw George Fernandez winning from Bihar. So Bihar has always been a state with different temperament. Even if you look at the earlier BJP, leaders Sushil Modi, Nand Kishor Yadav, all these are products of JP movement. So in Bihar, BJP was different from BJP in UP or in any other part of the country. Second question, do I see a revival of Congress? Yes, I see a slight revival of Congress, especially after Rahul Gandhi's caste census speech and his yatra. Lot of the campaign around, Pappu campaign around his personality is now been called out, and he's definitely getting attraction of youth. He's getting some traction there. But more than Congress and BJP, the story of left in Bihar is interesting. Because Bihar was a state where Maoist movement was very strong. There was MCC, there was Revolutionary Communist Center, then there was IPF, which later on turned into CPIML. So you see, after long, CPI had a strong, very popular leader there, Mr. Anand Mishra from Bihar. So this last election from 2020, I see some kind of revival of left politics there. possibly because of the alliance has worked well. Because I remember in every election, even in past 5,000, 8,000, 6,000 voters of CPML used to come. They used to vote for them, but they never won a seat. In from since 2020, I see this alliance has worked well. They have managed to shift transfer votes to each other, and CPIML will be a major factor even in Lok Sabha election when they won ARA. I mean, it's a seat which was won by BJP earlier. It surprised many. So CPML factor needs to be kept into mind. See, in Bihar, what we are seeing is that only two parties had cadre with them, RJD and BJP. Workers, both workers. JDU hardly had both workers. In Congress, had its offices in all the districts, but they had not much of both workers there. But apart from BJP and RJD, a third party which has cadre is CPI-ML, and also other the two left parties, slightly less number of workers on the ground, but they have. So these workers on the ground will help MJB get more votes, strengthen, because earlier it was a one-sided game.
Okay. We have a couple of questions coming in. There is one question about Nitish Kumar. This is something which we dealt with earlier in the conversation, but if one of you would want to still talk about it. So the question is, do you agree that Brand Nitish is in severe decline and this could be his last election as a major leader? Anand, would you want
Yeah.
to
See,
say something on that?
this is definitely happening because even in 2020 when JDU wins just 43 seats despite Nitish being the chief minister, and a youngster like Chirag Paswan managed to damage his party in so many constituencies. Definitely, the brand has taken a beating, and it is natural also. See his age factor. See for how many years he's in power, and see how difficult a state Bihar is, where meeting hopes and aspirations is so difficult. It's not Gujarat where you have dockyards and where you have a industrial past. So employment is a major issue there. Migration is a major issue there. So it's definitely taking a beating for remaining chief minister for nearly 2 decades. That takes its own toll. And given his health condition, which is visible in his public appearances, I think most of the people agree that this could be his last election as a major leader.
Raise this question and ask you about the speculation, this unending speculation on whether Nitish Kumar can become the chief minister, even if the NDA wins the election. There is huge, speculation about that. And where does he go from there? I mean, in such a circumstance, can we see the possibility of JDU again going back to the Mahagathbandhan? Can that happen?
Yeah, see, I think JDU will be up for grabs a few months or a year after the election, because see JDU and RJD, basically there is no ideological difference between the two, barring the fact that JDU aligned with BJP. Or JDU's previous avatar Samta Party had also aligned with BJP, but as far as socialist politics is concerned, the top leaders came from the same background. So you see a lot of going this side and that side from both parties. It's like this RJD president, newly appointed president Magnidhar Mandal. He was with JDU in past. Once during last Lok Sabha election, I called up an RJD leader. I had his number saved in my mobile as RJD, and he's not a big leader, and he informed me, sir, I have joined JDU. So this kind of transfer of leaders has been going on between the two parties. So when decline sets in, uh, we'll see a number of JDU leaders going towards RJD, and of course a lot will go with BJP, because in the next last few years we have seen uh, some leaders who are close to BJP uh, getting into party control in a bigger way, who had the background of being close with BJP leaders. So I think if the decline sets in, then JDU will find it tough to remain as an independent entity for long.
We have another question. It's about how close the election can be this time. Amitabh, I would want you to take this question. Uh, the question is whether a hung assembly is a possibility in this election.
Pollsters have mostly got it wrong, and even media and the general consensus has always been wrong. So in 2015, most of the people believed that NDA will win because Modi was at the peak of his career in that sense. Modi juggernaut was unstoppable, but the result was very, very surprising. In 2020, most of the people felt that Tejashwi is winning, but in the end, NDA scraped. So it is a very, very tricky state to predict because there are many, many caste groups and smaller parties and alliances also play a big role. Now the question here is the X factor here is again, I mean, there are many X factors. So Nitish, which is JDU's performance is one, PK's performance is another. Now the two other X factors are the Mahila Rozgar cash door, which is around 10,000 rupees already given to 1.21 crore women voters. Now 1.21 crore women voter means 35% of women voters. And if you assume it as one family, it means almost half of the electoral vote base of. And 10,000 rupees in Bihar versus 10,000 rupees in Maharashtra is very different. Because in Bihar, the per capita income is also not even 10,000. It's just 5.5 or 6,000 rupees. And two-thirds of the family households do not even earn 10,000. So whether this can propel or let's say help NDA woo women voters even from Mahagathbandhan side, the core vote block of Mahagathbandhan, silent voters of Yadav Muslim community voting for NDA, just like we've seen in Maharashtra or MP, where these type of schemes became very, very important, and even in Jharkhand. The other X factor, which is the Sarkari Naukri X factor. Correct. We can all do the maths and it's impractical, not possible. That does not matter. It's all about narrative and perception. And Sarkari Naukri also is a very, very sacred thing. In Bihar, everybody wants to be a government employee. So if it gels well with the youth, where youth is already discontented with the government, but that vote is getting split between Tejaswi and Prashant in that sense. So if Tejaswi is able to get back that youth vote, which he was able to in 2020, then the election becomes fairly close. But if Prashant is winning anywhere above 10 seats, then it is likely to be a hung assembly situation also. So I mean, many factors and permutations and combinations are possible because unless the candidates are announced for all the seats, it is very, very difficult to say which way the wind will blow because it's a very, very close contest. uh, and we'll have to just wait and see. Hung assembly is a possibility, though the probability is low.
The other questions are a bit of a repetition. There is a question about Prashant Kishor, whether he will upset the numbers in this election. And how potent do you feel Tejasvi's job guarantee would be? Amita, would you want
No,
to
essentially, if you see
answer?
the job guarantee, I mean, the maths has not been done clearly yet. How can you give? There are 20.5 lakh government jobs already, or rather, people who have government jobs as per the caste survey. There is 2.76 crore households. So even if we remove those 20 lakh, it becomes 2.5 crore people to get government jobs. Now, even if we assume that they are going to be paid only 10,000 rupees per month, very low level government job, then also it is 1.2 lakh uh, per person. So 2.5 crore into 1.2 lakh is 3 lakh crore, which is equal to the budget of Bihar at this point. See, if he would have mentioned that we will create employment opportunities of 2.5 crore, that would have still worked. Because BJP has also promised 1 crore, so you are promising 2.5 crore, and it is very, very difficult to pinpoint that it's not likely to happen because even that 1 crore promises may not likely materialize. Correct. So this government job, I think, is a wrong calculation on that part. But again, he's trying to play on the emotion, and if it works with some people because everybody will not be able to understand maths. And Prashant Kishor upset the numbers again, like as we discussed, like on 52 seats, the victory margin is less than 5,000 votes. 24 won by NDA, 26 won by Mahagathbandhan, and 2 by others. So if he gets 5,000 votes on each of these seats, correct. So, and if he gets off all of these from one party, then he's likely to upset the fortunes of one party. But as we've seen in the past, LJP also did not just damage JDU as is the general perception. It also damaged Mahagathbandhan by splitting the anti-incumbency votes. So he does two things: he splits the anti-incumbency votes, and he also amplifies the anti-incumbency voice because he is talking about corruption, he's talking about everything. So damage.
Anand, there is a question about the vote Adhikar Yatra which Rahul Gandhi undertook. We saw it got a huge response. The question is about whether the rally helped in diluting brand Modi and would effectively cause a significant vote shift in favor of the opposition alliance.
Sorry, I agree with the first part of this question that it has definitely helped Rahul Gandhi strengthen his image. Rahul Gandhi brand is more stronger, and if Rahul Gandhi brand gets stronger, it definitely impacts the other side. The other side brands gets a little beating, but whether Congress will get a large number of seats, then it is a little doubtful because we have seen massive success for Ladki Yun Lad Sakti Hu campaign for Priyanka Gandhi in UP. But again, the difference is that RJD is in a strong position and RJD is backing Congress. RJD's vote is shifting towards Congress, like DMK's vote shifts towards Congress in Tamil Nadu. So definitely, it's going to help Congress a little bit. It might improve their performance. But again, the main players will the three parties: RJD, BJP, and JDU.
There is a supplementary question. This can be a supplementary question. What is the role of Rahul Gandhi in this election? That is a significant cog in this election or a force to reckon with? That is the specific question
It's
which has been
definitely because
asked.
see, yeah, Amitabh, please.
So I think this election marks a very significant shift in Bihar politics. Is that it? Uh, uh, in this election, the national leadership of national parties have made their entry. In 2005, it was between Nitish and Rabdi. 2010, Nitish and Lalu. 2015, Nitish plus Lalu versus Modi because there was no local face from BJP at that point. In 2020, it was Nitish versus Tejashwi. But because of the weakening of the brand Nitish, which is natural and also because of the weakening of brand Tejaswi Mind. The ratings of Tejaswi have also fallen marginally, also primarily because Prashant Kishor has made dent in some of the youth popularity of Tejasvi Yadav by consistently raising his educational status, and education is a very, very sacred thing in Bihar again. So, uh, because both the brands have weakened, you have this battle in the form of Nitish plus Modi versus Rahul plus Tejasvi. So the national parties have made an entry into this election. That's why we are seeing Congress making or rather bargaining hard for seats and then good quality seats because Congress is the party which will get votes apart from MY to this alliance. So the Congress bridges the trust deficit which RJD or RJD's core vote block has with other vote blocks like EBCs, non-Yadav OBCs or Dalits. It is the you can say the bridge between MY and the other vote blocks. Whereas BJP here, because of the weakening of brand Nitish also to some extent, Modi helps solidify or pacify the discontented or disgruntled NDA voter that Modi is at the top, and when the opportune time comes, BJP will take over the leadership and appoint a person under the guidance of Modi to take this double engine state forward. So both have made their entry in this election in that sense.
So I think we can take one last question. Uh, I guess what Vijay Singh Adhikari wants to ask is how do we look at this election in the backdrop of the BJP's performance in the Lok Sabha elections. They had a setback, but after that, they have won elections on a trot. And so, how significant is the Bihar election for the BJP and then also for the Congress in terms of the national significance, what it means for national politics? Anand, if you want to comment on
See,
that.
the difference between 2024 election and this election is that in 2024, people are clearly seeing that they are electing a prime minister. So Modi versus who? That thing helped BJP in Bihar and also JDU, because nobody was expecting JDU to put up such a show in last Lok Sabha polls. Here, it is clear that there is no clarity on who is the next chief minister from BJP side, and Nitish Kumar is the face, but how long Nitish Kumar will remain the face? That is one thing. So it's not helping BJP being there. Is not helping the NDA in Bihar in the manner it helped in 2024. From Congress perspective, yes, if Congress last assembly election, we remember after the results were out, the RJD leader, Mr. Jan Tiwari, was attacking Congress for being responsible for stopping the Mahagathbandhan's march to power. So there is the belief that Congress health has improved a little more after this Rahul Gandhi's yatra in Bihar, and it will put up a better show this time. If they put up a better show, then Congress has a larger say in coalition politics in future, because otherwise regional parties will start treating Congress as some kind of a burden. So for Congress on survival in the long run, for Congress to be the prime party, prime axis party for the entire opposition, they have to improve better in Bihar. They have to perform better.
Okay, so that was not the last question. Now we'll take the final question. This is interesting, actually. Will the Bihar election wipe out the regional parties? And Bengal is next. So, what does this election, mean in terms of the elections, upcoming elections in Bengal?
I
Amitabh,
don't
if you
see the
would wanna
possibility
answer.
of regional parties being wiped out. I think Amitabh has done some more data on that, so he will answer this question.
Yeah.
So see, essentially, if you see from 1950 to 2024, regional parties. So let's assume everything apart from BJP and Congress as regional parties. So the regional parties' vote share in Lok Sabha elections has been on an average 49-48% from 1950 to 2024, and Congress plus BJP has been 51%. So when Congress gains, BJP loses. When BJP gains, Congress loses, with regional parties staying largely in this 49% range. Only in the last two elections in 2019 and 24, the regional parties have fallen somewhat to 44-45% levels, with BJP gaining at the expense of some of the regional parties and some of its allies also, like in the form of Shiv Sena, uh, Akali Dal, etc. So in Bihar, I think it's not about wiping out the regional parties in any way, because the regional parties, or let's say the national parties and the regional parties tally is likely to be at similar levels. So even if we take the 2020 election, the national parties got around 95, 75 plus 19, or 74 plus 19 of LJP 93, and 150 seats were won by the regional parties. That sort of combination or proportion is likely to stay. Maybe the national parties can get up to 100 max. Still, almost 140 seats will be won by regional parties like JDU, RJD, LJP, and the left party. So that's not going to happen. Bengal is next again, because in Bengal, Congress party and the left parties have been shrunk to zero. So it is very, very difficult to wipe out TMC and then just make this an election between BJP and the Congress and the left. So that's not possible also in Bengal in the short run or in the next election.
So I think we can wrap up the discussion here. It was quite, I think, informative discussion, and we touched upon a lot of issues. Um, the political landscape of Bihar, I guess, is going to change after this election, and the results will be an indication of, the nature of that change. So I guess for that we'll have to wait till November 14th, the D-Day, Thank you so much, Amitabh
Thank you, sir.
and Anand, for joining in and sharing your views. Thank you.
Thank you, Soni. Thank you, Amitabh.
Thank you, sir.